Welcome to combining the power of CI/CD and code analysis solutions. We're joined today by Vignesh Ravi and Stephen Lockhart, who are here to talk about how the combined power of AutoRABIT and codeScan can help Salesforce development teams create secure and efficient DevOps processes. Couple housekeeping notes to get us started. We'll take questions at the end, so please submit them during the conversation by using the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. And with that, I will turn it over to Vignesh and Stephen to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Chris. Hello, everyone. I'm Vignesh Ravi. I work with AutoRABIT as a pre-sales technical lead.
And hi, I'm Stephen Lockhart. I work with AutoRABIT as a customer success manager, focusing on the codeScan tool. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, guys. Here's the agenda that we're going to cover today. Vignesh will discuss how DevSecOps differs from DevOps, and then introduce the AutoRABIT release management platform, and then Stephen will cover the codeScan capabilities, and then we'll kind of talk through how these solutions work together. So take it away, Vignesh.
Thank you, Chris. So in the next couple of slides in the presentation team, we will be going to discuss the Salesforce ecosystem and also some of the risks that come with it, and as to how AutoRABIT, being a CI/CD platform, along with some other additional offerings, can come into the picture and help avoid those risks as well. We'll also spend some time in understanding CI versus CD. We'll look at why it is required, and as to why the focus should be on DevSecOps versus regular DevOps. So if you take the Salesforce ecosystem into consideration, right, this is kind of the platform of choice when it comes to CRM, even though it comes with a good competition from outsiders. Salesforce is at this point kind of a trusted system, if I may. And with Salesforce, there is a requirement to go towards DevOps, and that's where we bring in the maturity model. We talk about all the different levels of maturity model from level 1 to level 5, where complete automation is achieved. But more importantly, I think as a group, we have to be more focused on DevSecOps rather than just DevOps, because if we look at Salesforce, there's metadata involved, there's data involved as well. And data is a little more sensitive than metadata when it comes to a specific organization. But when we look at the exposure that either of them can get, it is probably at 0. So you shouldn't be exposing metadata, the logic within which your application is built, or you shouldn't be exposing the data to an external system as well. And the risk of introducing these errors, right, within metadata or within data is very, very high. Let's take a specific scenario. If you talk about building an Apex anonymous script that's typically used for data loading, right? Instead of inserting or upserting records using that anonymous script, if I go ahead and work my logic in a way that I start deleting records without my knowledge, then that is going to affect the entire system as well. It's going to delay our production releases. It's also going to delay the quality of the application as well. So it's important to ensure that security is brought in at an early phase in the DevOps lifecycle. And on that note, what is the advantage of bringing in security at an early phase, right? So if you look at the DevOps infinity loop, it consists of multiple phases, starting all the way from planning or designing all the way to a release to production, right? So if the application is already in production and we start identifying bugs, then that means we're going to demand downtime from our customers, which lets them not use our application for that period of time. And they're not going to realize the value of our application, and things are probably going to slow down, and we will ultimately lose the trust of our customer as well. So that is something that we have to try our best to avoid. So, and that's where security has to be implemented in the development phase so that we detect any security flaws with respect to data or metadata at an early stage, and then fix it, and then promote code and configuration changes to the higher environment. and having a look at some of the risks of unsecure Salesforce data. If we look at the actual data itself, right? So if we consider the stats from the past, talking about just the first half of 2020, there were close to 36 billion records that were exposed. You look at applications, or rather organizations as big as Google, MySpace, LinkedIn, Microsoft. Every organization has been hacked once in a while in the recent past as well. And that talks a lot about how to build an infrastructure that is highly reliant on security, and also how to code and configure your Salesforce environment in a way that is strictly aligned with the DevSecOps approach as well. So this is exactly where AutoRABIT comes into play, right? How do we help you achieve a DevSecOps approach? With AutoRABIT, how can you go ahead and move from DevOps to DevSecOps and make sure that you minimize the risks and follow a shift-left approach, if I may? So CI/CD with AutoRABIT is pretty straightforward, but before that, AutoRABIT is an application release management platform, or rather automated release management platform, where we were introduced in 2015, and we have come across a long way in the last 6 years or so by building a specific backup and recovery solution for Salesforce as well. And recently, a year back, we got funded by Full Partners. That was a Series A funding. And a month back, we acquired codeScan as well. So you'll be hearing from Stephen about codeScan in just a minute or so. And also, AutoRABIT works with a lot of ISV partners like Terrasoft, Fonteva, Velocity, Encino, Viva. We work with a lot of managed packages in the form of CPQ, Dreamhouse, so on and so forth. And we do have a global reach. Our company is remotely present during these times at various places in the globe, where our sales and marketing is primarily focused in US. We do have offices in UK, Australia, and the R&D center focused are located in India. So with this solution, what can you expect, right? So AutoRABIT kind of transforms the approach to Salesforce by taking you through a CI/CD process and ultimately taking you towards a DevSecOps level 5 maturity as well. How's that done? We integrate deeply with codeScan as an SAST solution, or a static code analysis solution, where you're able to identify flaws in metadata at an early stage during the development lifecycle. And once you fix those flaws with respect to code and configuration changes, you can take it forward to the higher environments. And this is where we bring in 3 different powers, if I may, or technical pillars. One is we automate the metadata deployments along with data deployments, making your production releases faster, maybe by a day, by a week, throughout the journey of AutoRABIT. And we also make sure that the speed of deployments is n times faster, depending on how many profiles you're using, how many permission sets you're using, or how many lightning bundles or triggers or classes as well. And as I mentioned briefly, we integrate with codeScan to help you with the security perspective of things. And there's also a pipeline that we have where you're able to get a clear picture of your entire release process that's currently followed within the organization, and also get some good statistics behind that. So as an organization, as a team of developers or a lead, you will be able to know how many CI/CD operations were done in the past month, past week, or last year. And you'll also be able to collect information as to how frequent your merges has resulted in a conflict versus smooth merges. So why spend a lot of time on continuous integration, right? Why has it been such a buzzword of late, and also been a buzzword for the last a decade or so? So if you look at Salesforce process without continuous integration, you'd be looking at tools that are open source, something like a Jenkins or a Bamboo, and then being and then building out and scripts to be able to promote changes from one environment to the other. And when you work on such open source solutions, since they're not specifically built for Salesforce, the management of those and scripts requires a lot of time, and you'll have to often tweak it to be able to stick with your Salesforce process. So for example, if I want to achieve automation in my Salesforce releases in such a way that as soon as metadata is committed to a branch in a repository, I want the deployment to be initiated. Then that will require a separate script within open source solutions. And there will be a team of operations folks who are managing that as well. So it requires a lot of manual work, and continuous integration tools like AutoRABIT or continuous deployment tools like AutoRABIT will help you in this approach. So when you talk about continuous integration, what AutoRABIT basically does is you can think of us as a tool that packages your metadata members from a source environment, be it a version control or a Salesforce environment, and then reads the metadata, parses it so that it deploys only the changes in metadata to the target. That way, at the end of the day, you get a shippable code that can be promoted from a source to a target. So you're kind of avoiding all the back and forth that requires multiple developers to be sitting in a room, meeting for hours together in a day to see who stepped on whose toes. So all of those manual steps can be avoided. And with continuous delivery to the cloud, AutoRABIT integrates well with each and every phase within the Salesforce ecosystem or the DevOps Infinity lifecycle, if I may. Where if you're looking at planning, AutoRABIT can integrate with ALM solutions like Jira, version 1, Rally, so on and so forth. And if you're looking at testing solutions, we can integrate with Selenium, Prova, AxleQ. And all of these integrations will bring in multiple advantages. So it will help you with a shorter lead time for deployments. And with an integration to tool like codeScan, it is also going to make sure that your code doesn't have any sort of security flaws in it, and you're pushing only the highest quality code to the higher environments in the pipeline. So at this point, I will hand it over to Stephen.
Thank you, Vignesh. I'd like to talk a little bit about static code analysis and CodeScan in general. So static code analysis is a suite of tools that analyze your code and check for symbolic and programmatic errors without compilation. So CodeScan provides Salesforce development teams with continuous inspection for their code quality and security. We have self-hosted and cloud offerings so we can fit into your pipeline wherever it is best. We also offer editor plugins so that, as Vignesh mentioned, your developers can shift those quality checks all the way to the left, stop a lot of issues before a pull request ever even happens. We also provide quite a few metrics so that you can measure and track your success without putting in too much effort. We have technical debt and code health graphs so you can track past performance as well as current refactoring effort. And when polled, our customers have chosen to answer that they do see a significant reduction in technical debt and assistance with their developers being able to write high quality code and an increase in code review productivity. Now on the topic of code reviews, the big issue with those is that there are a lot of hesitancies around being uninformed, rooted in the unknown. So with a tool like CodeScan, when you're going into a code review, both parties are going to have a heads up and they can kind of analyze what's gone wrong, what is expected, what kind of errors are we having, and what are the solutions. And being able to know that before you go into a code review meeting removes a lot of that anxiety that a lot of developers often deal with when they're pair programming or code reviewing seniors and juniors alike. So the CodeScan tool is fully integrated with the AutoRABIT ARM platform. And when you use these tools together to provide your IDE integrations and continuous delivery and deployment, as well as scans, you get a complete comprehensive end-to-end DevSecOps solution. And the key here is not just DevOps or SecOps, it's DevSecOps. You get these tools together and you have a one-stop shop for all of these concerns, as well as you can see on the screen here, reporting dashboards, so you can get a high-level code health overview right from the gate. So one of the most important things that Vignesh did touch on was what I like to consider the holy trinity of DevSecOps. Of course, CodeScan is going to help you reduce your technical debt, but perhaps most importantly, we're going to give you that speed in automation, security, and business intelligence and reporting. For speed and automation, CodeScan can fit into your automation pipelines. We can run scans when pull requests are created. When a feature branch is done, a developer can see his results for just his branch and get on fixing that code before a merge ever happens. We can also set up quality gates in your release pipelines so that if there's a security vulnerability, we can have that quality gate fail and break your build. When you set these tools up in that way, you can know that you're not going to be promoting bad code. Furthermore, you get secure code. We can check against CWE, OWASP, and SANS Top 10, as well as popular Salesforce best practices. And then when you put it all together, you have increased visibility with the dashboards and reports that I mentioned that can categorize your issues into code quality, code security, and code bugs, as well as categorizing those reports for different security standards. And of course, CodeScan is the only tool that currently offers 100% of the Salesforce ecosystem. We cover Lightning, Apex, Visualforce, processes, components, process builders, flows, all of the ecosystem is covered by CodeScan. As you can see here, CodeScan by AutoRABIT is a trusted solution amongst many industry leaders. And I'll give it back to Vignesh. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. So what happens when these two solutions merge, right? So that's where we, as an organization, try to come into the picture of DevSecOps. And with the AutoRABIT Product Suite, there's three different offerings. If you look at it separately, we have a backup and recovery suite as well that focuses on backing up your Salesforce metadata, your Salesforce data with dependencies across parent and child levels. And we are able to compare those backup snapshots or even compare a snapshot with a live environment. And we have features that will let you seed metadata and data off of those backup snapshots into a target environment. On the release management side, we have the CI/CD platform that is purpose-built for Salesforce with deep integration with CodeScan as well, where you can test your metadata and code level changes as well. And as previously discussed, we do have a wide variety of support when it comes to managed packages in the form of Velocity, CPQ, Viva, and we also support DX, scratch args, and unlocked packages as well. And when it comes to the different tools or different plugins or API support that we have, we can talk to ticket management platforms like Jira, Rally, version 1, DevOps, and we can talk to multiple Git flavored repositories and also SVN and TFS as well. And just like the version control and ALM support, we can support multiple functional testing platforms in Selenium, Provar, and AccelQ as well.
All right. Thank you to both Stephen and Vignesh. Before we get to the questions, I'm going to pop up a poll on your screen. I'm doing it right now. So this will just let us know if you'd like the CodeScan and AutoRABIT teams to follow up with you directly following this call. I'll give you all a minute to fill this out, and now's a great time to submit additional questions through that Q&A section if you have them. We've got a handful of good ones sitting in there right now. So I'll give you just a minute to submit further questions and fill out the poll. Maybe 10 seconds. All right, great. I'm going to end the poll right now. Okay, thanks. So now we can move into the questions, and I'll field these and kind of direct them towards Stephen and Vignesh. So Vignesh, I think this one is for you. How does AutoRABIT integrate with Jira?
Sure. We have multiple ways to integrate AutoRABIT with Jira. It can be via basic authentication, or you can leverage your personal API tokens within Jira to connect to AutoRABIT. But the way that we work with a ticket management platform is we are able to link your repository commits with Jira work items. So whenever you successfully commit metadata into a repository, if it requires a change of status within a Jira work item, then you will be able to automate that workflow within AutoRABIT.
Great, thank you. Here's one for you, Stephen. Does CodeScan include analysis of packaged apps?
Yes, so CodeScan can scan packaged apps if you have them. We can scan Apex classes, components, pages, triggers, definition bundles, lightning component bundles, triggers, pages. I think I mentioned all of that, events. So yes, you can. There are a couple of different ways we can do that depending on how your pipeline is set up.
Great, thank you. Vignesh, here's one for you. I think I'm interpreting this correctly. Are test classes automatically created by the AutoRABIT tool?
Sure. Test classes are not created by the AutoRABIT tool per se. It will be created in the Salesforce environment. But what we can do is we can run code coverage based on dependencies. So let's say you have 5 classes in the package that's about to be deployed to a target, right? Instead of running the tests in the org or running local tests or you having to specify tests to run, you can let AutoRABIT automatically identify the dependencies of those 5 classes and run code coverage only on those dependencies.
Great, thank you. Stephen, this one's for you. Do we need Sonar to use CodeScan if we have an on-prem Jenkins solution? Can you tell us the difference between sonarqube and CodeScan?
Sure, gladly. First of all, if you are using the on-prem solution in Jenkins, then you would need sonarqube. However, the sonarqube Community Edition, the free version, is sufficient for this. The differences in that sonarqube is the generic software. It's the community open source software. When you are in an on-premise solution, what CodeScan is going to do is we're going to integrate through 2 official plugins. The first is going to be a sonarqube plugin that will provide all of our rules and language support through your sonarqube instance. And then the second one is going to be an official SFDX CodeScan plugin. With the combination of sonarqube and SFDX, you can get the full CodeScan functionality in an on-premise solution. As far as the difference, again, CodeScan in this situation is going to be a plugin set for the sonarqube software suite.
Great, thank you. All right. Trying to read through these a little bit here. I think I've got this right. What sort of reports for coding process tracking are available looking for audit evidence? Not sure which one of you can take that one, or if we need a little more detail.
I can take it with respect to AutoRABIT here. So AutoRABIT provides different sort of reporting capabilities and dashboards, right? So for example, if you're working with a repository, right? If at any point in time you'd like to understand what branches are effectively being used by a repository, how many commits were done to that particular branch in that repository over a period of time, how many of the merges have resulted in a conflict versus merges that did not result in a conflict. So you can pretty much get a good grasp of all the CI/CD reports that a typical team of leads would look at. And there's also dashboards available that can tell you how many CI/CD operations have been done over the last year as well. And when I say CI/CD operations, it includes deployment automation jobs, manual deployments, data loads, commits, merges, so on and so forth, including functional testing.
Thank you. Stephen, here's one for you. In AutoRABIT, we have different options to run Apex, PMD, sonarqube, etc. Can you let us know the advantages for codeScan?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with Apex PMD. Apex PMD is offered by Salesforce, I think, for a lot of people to get a free scan in, and it's not a bad starting place. sonarqube itself does offer some minimal Apex coverage. The main difference between these two is going to be that codeScan offers a much larger, much more robust rule set that doesn't just cover Apex, but also covers Visualforce, Lightning, web components, and metadata. As far as actual rules concerned, we're in the hundreds more rules range. So if you do have the opportunity, I would welcome you to run the scan each with both of those tools, and that'll give you a good idea of that comparison. But ultimately, it comes down to the fact that we're a much more robust rule set and we cover the full ecosystem.
Great, thanks. Here's another one for you, Stephen. You're not off the hook yet. Does the code quality scan check Apex HTML and JavaScript files? And if so, are there design or best practice patterns being scanned for?
Yes. Hi, Francois. We do check Apex, HTML, JavaScript. We have this. We also check a couple of other types of files. Within that, we have the ability to customize your rule sets. So you can look for, we have rules regarding best practices and quality, security and vulnerability, and then of course just bugs. Those are all three separated by type, so you can look through and see exactly what all of the design or best practice patterns are in that, and kind of limit which ones or choose which ones you want to use.
Great. And then we have another question. How does codeScan integrate with Jira?
So currently codeScan does not directly integrate with Jira. We do have Jira integrations due this year as part of our roadmap. However, within the codeScan tool, as a short-term workaround, if you ever filter down to any issues, you can send that link directly to any other member who has access to your project within codeScan, and they're going to get the exact same issues list. So in the short-term workaround, you can filter those down and create a Jira ticket and put it in there. In the long term, we're going to have Jira integrations available this year.
Love it. Thank you. Vignesh, here's one for you. In the realm of DevSecOps, do you consider platform security as a component of SecOps? A lot of tools focus on code quality, but do you consider platform security within the realm or control of DevSecOps?
Definitely. So apart from applying the DevSecOps practices on Salesforce, protecting metadata data with tools like codeScan and AutoRABIT, which is combined into a single solution right now, platform security is also equally important. To give you an example, if Salesforce is, let's say, it's typically hosted on the cloud, but if it's within your infrastructure protected by all those NACL rules or any access control lists, let's say, then the number of external cyber criminals that get access to that ecosystem is very, very minimal compared to it being hosted on a public internet. So it's equally important as the DevSecOps with AutoRABIT and codeScan.
Great, thanks. So it looks like we have a couple of questions about how AutoRABIT can be used for deployment. So Vignesh, if you can just speak a little bit to that, that'd be great.
Sure. With AutoRABIT, you can deploy either manually or automatically as well. Manual deployments will come with an advantage of users cherry picking work items. So for example, let's say there's 10 work items in the QA phase. And out of 10 work items, I functionally test the application. Only 8 of them have successfully passed my functional testing results. They meet the criteria, let's say. Then I need to cherry pick 8 work items from the list of 10 and promote it to a higher environment. And that's where manual deployments will come into play. And automated deployments, that this is where you take a step from manual deployments and go all the way to automation, kind of achieving CI and CD, so that you can at one point in time automate metadata deployments into production as well.
Great, thank you. Here's another one for you, Vignesh. Can AutoRABIT manage user stories, or do I need an ALM tool?
Great question. So with respect to user stories, we will have to work with an ALM tool that's outside of AutoRABIT. We do not have our own ticket management platform.
Okay, great. Here's another one for you, Stephen. How do codeScan and checkmarx compare?
Sure, I'd be glad to answer that. So checkmarx is a fairly robust security solution. However, they do lack on a lot of the bugs and do not count for code quality or best practices like codeScan would. Because of those key differences, you get a couple of things. The biggest functional difference is in that rule set. So codeScan is going to have a more robust rule set because we do focus on the entire product, not just security. But perhaps more importantly, when you're talking about release schedules and release management, is the fact that codeScan takes between 2 and 20 minutes to run, depending on the size of your code base. Whereas a similar check with with checkmarx, a similar scan can take 2, 3, maybe even 4 hours sometimes. So because of this quick turnaround time, we're allowed to shift codeScan all the way left as possible. So your developer can make that pull request and know by the time he comes back from a coffee break, he's going to have results showing him exactly what issues are there. Whereas with an environment that takes longer, you're going to have to schedule those releases for nights or weekends or things like that. The other major difference is codeScan offers the IDE plugin tool so that your developers can get those issues to them in real time before they ever make a pull request.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, we've got one more here. I perform SOC 1 through 3 attestation audits. One problem is determining if a service provider uses OWASP for website coding guidelines. Can you show that a code set has been tested against OWASP requirements using codeScan?
Yes, so I believe the answer to this question is yes. If I'm understanding you correctly, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but we do categorize all of the issues found by codeScan by 3 ways: OWASP, CWE, and SANS. So you can see a report of all OWASP issues broken down by their CWE distribution, and then you can do whatever you need to with that report. But if that report comes up clean, then you can provably demonstrate that you are not having OWASP and it has been cleared by those standards.
Cool. And then we just have a clarification question around what happens to that report that's generated. Who does it get sent to? Who sees the results of the codeScan report?
Sure. So currently all of the reports are internal on the app. There are 2 levels of permissions controls within it, an organization and a project level. You can also customize permissions sets and groups. So that report would only be visible within the codeScan tool to people that have the specific administrative access to view reports or view results.
Okay, great. And then we've got a couple of questions around demos. Given the complexity of the AutoRABIT tool, a demo can take up quite a bit of time. So if we've got questions around the AutoRABIT demo, we can follow up directly with you after this session to schedule a demo that's focused on your particular needs. And then one more for you, Stephen. What is the tool you are using for codeScan of LWC?
Sure. This is going to be scanned just like we scan everything else through the base software of sonarqube using the codeScan language plugin that provides all of the rules that we're going to scan.
Okay, great. I think that covers the questions. Let me do one more. There is a question about whether you can print out the CodeScan report to give to auditors from within the platform.
Currently, we do not have printable reports. That is due this year. However, we do have an API available where you can make custom requests and pull back anything you need from that. But as far as easily printable clicky button on the reports, we do not have that yet.
Okay, great. Okay, one last scan through what remains. I think most of these are duplicates of ones we've already answered. Stephen, Vignesh, is there anything that you'd like to add before we conclude this session? I think we've had a lot of great questions and a really good discussion. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we can end this session. Thank you guys for the presentation, and thanks to all the attendees for your great questions. If you ask specific questions that require follow-up, we'll do that after this session. And thank you all for your time.
Have a great day.
Bye, guys.